Hello and welcome to Shuffling Notes, a channel where we explore the depths of music and musical styles from across the globe. I'm your co host, Prankit,
I'm your co-host Razi.
and today we will be discussing music from the Indian motion picture Lagaan, which came out in 2001. The music was composed by A.R. Rahman, an artist we have previously discussed on this channel, and the lyrics were composed by Javed Akhtar. So I'm quite excited to dive deep into this one. There's an ensemble of singers and performers that we'll get to
And
on a track by
styles.
track basis and
Yeah.
styles. And I'm also excited because this is one of our nights of the turntable edition. And we have Haider with us, someone who is in the film industry, a big fan of Rahman. And I think your next project
You.
is involved, is somehow connected to Rahman. Is that right?
Yes, it is. Yes. If all goes well and there's no COVID problem, then it's going to be the next Imtiaz Ali and Rahman film.
Ah, excellent. Well, fingers crossed then.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Amazing. So, Heather, do you want to tell us a little bit about how you sort of, what is it about Rahman that draws you to his particular music, and also, what part Lagan sort of played in that a little bit? Because this was 2001, so quite a while back.
Yeah, quite a while ago. But honestly, I don't think Lagan quite a while ago is not what it can be now. Lagan is a evergreen sort of film which one can watch and continue to learn from and pick up lots and lots of different things. Not just the music, but also of how the film shaped out itself, and uh, it was just one of those films that actually stayed,
Mm-hmm.
and it's still a school to a lot of us, and for me, going back into, if we're just discussing about Rahman in particular, uh, I think I think the music is um, always ahead of its time,
Mm-hmm.
since I can't put my finger on anything that he's done, and it doesn't sound fresh,
Yeah.
you know. So yes, he does play a lot with percussion. Yes, he does play a lot with design now.
Yeah.
Mhm.
There's a lot of electronic that's a bit that's he started using, and that also I feel is part of his genius.
Yeah. It's
You
his
know,
music is very much, I think, there's no like rules or strict boundaries that he limits himself by. He's
yeah,
always,
yeah,
I guess, pushing the envelope a little bit. And I think Lagan is
yeah,
very interesting that way that you're saying, because it's the movie itself is sort of like you could say like a period piece, I think, set at the
yeah,
end of the 19th century. And the
yeah.
music does capture that sort of that landscape. I'm not too familiar with Indian folk and classical music, but from what I do know, there's definitely an element which sort of takes you into that landscape from the
Yeah,
sound that's
there is,
created.
yeah.
Right.
And quite interestingly, because I feel when it comes to showing grandeur, scale,
Yeah.
and explaining through music what an era can be, and then also explaining through music what emotions can be, um, through different songs in the film, and not just songs. It's also to do with the background music.
Hmm.
Songs are separate and
The score.
background music separate. So the whole score, that in itself explains. You just have to watch a scene and listen to the music of the film, and you're in it.
Yeah. It,
You know,
it draws you
so
in.
it just, yeah, it draws you in. And very interestingly, every time it's changing, a scene is changing, or it's got a certain mood. For instance, if we're just discussing about the British side of the film
Hmm.
versus the Indian side of the film, there's a division between the two
Yeah.
with the background score.
Yeah. The
Yeah.
theme,
You know, So,
there's a through line in the theme that carries over, but there's a tonal
yeah,
shift between the two elements where you have almost the village folk,
Generally,
let's
with
say.
the British, they use the trumpets, and the with the Indian, it's the same tune, but I think with the iktara or something like
Yeah.
There's that
Yeah, you bring in
wonder.
basically you bring in an orchestra, it becomes British. You play the tabla and the sitar, it becomes Indian.
Yeah. Very true.
Or introduce some pakhawaj or something
Yeah.
there, it becomes Indian suddenly. That's typical,
Mhm.
but it's how you use it is also a different. It's quite interesting because and obviously Rahman has done a great
Mhm.
job with that in the film. So, but that's so to speak, it's more it's like a giveaway for to explain that this is Indian. You just play tabla in the background.
Mhm.
It's not just for this film. It's perhaps I think it's
Yeah.
used quite widely now.
Yeah. And I think Rahman is always an interesting person to just like talk about to people because I think I've always heard like a very different perspective. You know, some people sort of really associate him to more like a Sufi or spiritual feel to some of his music, while some are sort of, you know, there's obviously some strong classical influences, but then there's also like this whole electronic and synthetic side to him, and everyone sort of relates to a slight different element. But it really is the
Yeah.
way I guess he brings it together and makes it work for that particular context or movie.
Yeah.
That sets it apart a little bit, right?
Well said.
Excellent. So, Razi, if you got anything to add, or shall we dive into it track by track?
No, I think I mean I was just listening to the two of you, and that's exactly in tandem of what I wanted or what I would say about
Mhm.
Rahman's music and this film specifically. But yes, I would exaggerate on the fact that listening to the album as an album, I still had the I mean I couldn't not get the visuals out of it. Right? Like uh having those scenes and just having an idea of those scenes, it's you can still imagine that thing happening in front of you. So that's all the tracks have that, and
Mhm.
you just sort of go with it.
Adding to that, if you hadn't seen the film, would you still visualize?
So I see that it's an interesting point because I wanted to rewatch this movie, but I didn't manage to rewatch the movie for this episode. So my memory is a bit fuzzy, and so some of the tracks specifically, I don't remember what the context was. So it'll be interesting because we'll have like the different elements
Yeah.
of what we think about the track. So starting it off, the first track on the album is Ghanan Ghanan. It's performed by Udit Narayan, Sukhwinder Singh, Alka Yagnik, Shankar Mahadevan, Shan, and there's a chorus as well. So really a sort of a star-studded ensemble of performers if you're familiar with Indian music or Indian artists. Yeah, an excellent combination of different, I guess, singing styles almost coming together with like, Shan, who's got his own sort of, especially I'd imagine in 2001, I feel like Shan was associated much more with almost like the Western style of singing or like the Western influences that were showing up. Right, given his debut album and everything.
Yeah, there was that fusion, and with his fusion with the Western band, MLTR.
Yeah, exactly. Right, I forgot about that. Didn't he do like the One Love as well, fusion? Or was that Shan?
Was that Shan?
I think it was Shan. Yeah. But yeah, it's an interesting mix of different singing styles. But yeah, what you guys' perspective on this?
I feel that it's not just singing styles in the song. It's also to do with like I said in the beginning, percussion. And when you start listening, if you listen to the song carefully on headphones or on good speakers, there's a division between the left and the right channels, which is to design a piece like that. What it's doing is it's constantly traveling.
It builds that landscape with the
especially in the beginning,
like
you can sort of feel it going from
it
left,
goes from
right,
Ghanan Ghanan and the next Ghanan Ghanan is here. So it the travel and where it's taking and what it's trying to do because it's showing clouds coming.
Yeah. Oh, good point.
And then the clouds are disappearing in the end, so the Ghanan Ghanan keeps going away.
Yeah.
Exactly how it came in. And in the middle, of course,
also fading in and fading out of the same, like having that as the part. So like you sort of see it visually, and I see it.
Yeah, and I think the bit about percussion as well, it's very interesting because there's almost like there's that folk quality, But because the context of the song, I feel like, is almost like a prayer for rain, or like a rain song or rain dance sort of element.
Excitement for the rain coming, because it hadn't been there
Yeah,
for I think 2 years
And
or
the
so.
beauty it'll bring trees
Yeah,
and so much
yeah,
life around, and there'll be love and rainbows and stuff.
yeah, and
economics. Bring economics.
yeah, and I think aspects of the track sort of feel, because you've got that. I'm imagining it's like the hand symbols, that you play like arti mein, and
Yeah,
so it's got
The
that like prayer like
rings, yeah.
aspect musically,
yeah, yeah,
parts
yeah,
of the song, and then
yeah.
I think what's very interesting is whenever it transitions to the chorus, the rhythm sort of changes, and then there's this like grandeur, like right with the singers singing that
Yeah.
chorus one by one. It's almost like
One by one.
demanding the rain, right? It gets like more
Yeah.
aggressive almost in
Yeah.
tone in the chorus compared to the verse, which seems to be a bit sort of softer.
Also for like
It's more about celebration. It's
Yeah.
celebrating the rain, or if not the rain, then the clouds, because the rain doesn't happen in the song.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just the incoming of the clouds is such that oh wow, it's the best thing that has happened to their lives. And how do you create that?
Mm-hmm.
and the whole
Because that's
song,
what the film,
yeah, the whole song
the whole song. Because
is like a playful music that you would like in that kind of season or in that kind of weather. You play
yeah,
that song and just jump around in a park and like run around and see stuff. Like just
Yeah.
saying, I mean,
yeah,
it's got that
There's an
chirpy
excitement
vibe to it. Yeah,
captured in
there's
it.
excitement.
Yeah, and I think that rhythm, sort of that rhythm change in the chorus as well, it sort of brings that chorus to your attention, because the rhythm of the track changes a little bit from the verse to the chorus every time. And every time I hear all the singers one by one, it's like it's like seeing the Avengers coming together for the first time. It's this ensemble of these great artists. Yeah,
yeah,
amazingly
and
done.
and also the performance in the video along with the song quite complements it, because I think this song directly complements the title of the movie also. Because why is Lagan happening? Is
Yeah.
the Lagan
Ah.
is what's it called
The
in
tax,
in
land tax or
the
something.
tax?
Yeah.
Yeah. So if they have to pay that tax, for that they need the rain
Hmm.
Yeah.
to be able to grow whatever they have to give.
Yeah.
I mean,
You know,
as a starting of the album, as well as setting up premise for the movie, is the song.
is this song? Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, also well written. I would say, like, since we're talking about the lyrics, and that's what drives the song. So
Hmm.
that's, I mean, that's intelligently written about the beauty
Mega
that,
chai barkha laye.
and
Yeah.
also like
Very
there's
interesting.
one point at 3:15 that सात रंगों की चुनरिया. Um, so that's like the rainbow, but like put in this sort of magical way. Like it's got seven. So it would mean uh, basically like a stole has seven colors on it, so it looks
Hmm.
beautiful. So
Yeah.
something
Very,
like
very
that. I mean,
beautifully. I
it's
mean, you
got
got
that.
Javed Akhtar for that, so
Yeah.
yeah,
Back in the day.
excellent.
Yeah.
So yeah, from Ghanan Ghanan, we then get to Mitwa, which is performed by Udit Narayan, Sukhwinder Singh, Alka Yagnik, and Srinivas. I think he wasn't there in the previous track, right? Srinivas.
He was
Yeah,
not.
but he's in this track. So I couldn't remember what was the context of this song, because in my head it's sort of part of it almost works like I would say like a recruitment type aspect, but
It is that. It is that. But it's also to do with inspiring everyone
Yeah.
to sort of fight for the land.
yeah, like
It's
getting
that.
people to pick
And
up arms a little
then
bit.
slowly everyone just comes together.
Hmm.
This actor starts the song, and then the others join in, and then they all sort of come as an ensemble and start dancing and enjoying. Yeah, it's quite a fantastic. This piece is quite good, and in the film, how it's placed is very interesting.
Hmm. I need to rewatch the
Yeah.
movie. But
Yeah, man.
yeah, I think this track as well. There's this. It's got a bit of a, like a unique, I would say, song structure.
Mhm.
In the sense that you got that little bit of intro, Har Sant Kahe, and then
Yeah.
Udit starts with the Aja Re, which is like the first verse, and then you got the chorus, and then when you get to the second verse, which Alka starts, it's very different melodically. So
Yeah.
it's not, yeah, it's not a 1-to-1 of the first verse how you generally have. So you almost have different types of verses put together with the choruses in between.
In between.
Right. You even got like, I think there's
I think
there's
that
there's that.
that
Yeah.
second verse happens after like a musical interlude with the violin. Like I noted that down at 350.
Yeah, is that a
there's that violin.
sarangi or something? It sounds so
That is
good.
a
Yeah,
sarangi.
Sarangi.
It starts with the nikara, goes into sarangi, has the violin, and has the
yeah,
all the drums, whichever he's used.
yeah, and it
And
works so well, that sort of combination of instruments that you've got going.
yeah.
And I guess there is a sort of a bridge because that intro part, Har Sant Kahe, comes back later in the track.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah, so it's the structure feels pretty unique because a lot of, I would say, from my experience from this era, Bollywood songs would tend to have a similar song structure in the sense of verse, chorus, verse, chorus.
The simple sthai and antara way that they go,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Yeah.
But
it's a chorus plus two verses.
yeah, but A.R. Rahman
But
sort of
I think
is kind of doing his own thing with some of these tracks.
that's always.
Yeah.
The song's written also in a way where everyone's saying their part in this song. They all saying their parts and their poetry
Mhm.
in a way that is bringing everyone together in the chorus.
Yeah.
So yeah, and then they're singing that poetry to define exactly what they're feeling
Mhm.
and what they want other people to end up feeling about what they're trying to do.
I
I think
was
you
I
put
was
it
watching.
correctly. Like
Yeah.
it's an inspirational song because he sings it for the kid. Is why I was
Yeah.
like a big fan of this song.
Yeah.
Whenever it plays, like I'm still. Uh, Intellectually, I would say because it's a courageous inspiration, but it's just. I mean, it was very nostalgic and connecting for me to see that kid getting inspired the way they show in the movie as well as with the song. So it's just that there's that connect that happens because of the inspiration. I would say me as the audience as well as the other actors who he is recruiting.
Well, you could say the song did work, right? Because it also sort of inspired you to then perform, recruited
Yeah.
Yeah.
uh, yeah, I saw this interview of Alka Yagnik talking about Lagaan and working with A.R. Rahman and Javed Akhtar. And she was just talking about some of the tracks because the structure can be so different. It was very difficult for them to record it because when they were recording it, they didn't really know what it's going to sound like, as in the singers. Rahman knew what he was doing, but the singers were just
Yeah.
like, how is this going to work? Like, where is this going to happen? And there was apparently a moment even Javed Akhtar was like, wait, what do you want to do now? Like he was trying to figure out like, okay, so now this will happen. And then you want some words here that need to rhyme with that. But it's just that when it all comes together, it's
It
such
just
a,
makes sense.
yeah. So you got that
Yeah.
vision, right? And it can be so difficult to
It's
like
like
get the
Rahman,
pieces together.
Rahman sort of started composing the music before the lyrics were written.
So
Or
I
maybe some of the
imagine
lyrics were
it's a,
written.
The idea is that he composes the music in Tamil and
Right.
it's not in Hindi. So
Okay.
he does it the first time he composes a song, it's in Tamil.
Okay.
And then that translates itself into Hindi.
Okay.
and I'd
So,
imagine it's also probably a bit of a cyclical process where maybe you've got he's composed something and then say Javed Akhtar writes some of the lyrics, but maybe it goes in a bit different direction and it's a bit
Mhm.
iterative
and
as
then it
well,
has
I'd
to fall
imagine.
into- Yeah. They both will do it together till the music or the poetry starts to complement each other.
Mhm. It's
But
amazing.
not
Yeah.
digressing from this, I feel even Rockstar, for that matter, if as a film, there's no structure to any song.
Ah, acha. I haven't
You know?
listened to I've listened to some of Rockstar songs, but I haven't actually like properly listened to it.
Also,
I don't
watch
think
the
I've seen the
movie as well.
movie actually.
Watch the movie as
Yeah,
well.
also you haven't seen that movie.
Yeah, I need a list of
So
movies
no,
too.
so Rockstar also is a film. I mean, going back
Yeah.
to Rahman, that there's no song in the film with a, a linear structure.
Mhm.
You know.
Yeah. Yeah, this track by itself, I think it's quite an interesting combination again of the instruments, singing the lyrics, but it's
Yeah.
really the final product that I guess Rahman envisioned when he started the journey that brings it
Yeah.
together. And then when you add the added complexity that it needs to relate to a movie scene, like there's already context that the song is being
Yeah.
written for, and it needs
Yeah,
to work.
yeah.
It's just a surprise, like to me, how these tracks can work so well because artists tend to go in their own direction creatively, but you still need to make it work for that context but still be creative,
Mhm.
which I think can be a challenge in
Oh,
itself.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it is.
Um,
Yeah.
Excellent.
But the style of how I feel of what I've heard from the film industry also, folks talking about things. The style of how he designs music and how he writes and how he thinks and the time that he decides to make the music in, the usual hours, if uh, for whatever I've heard, is he likes to work at night, not in the day, and because it's quieter, I feel, so it's just it's a sort of uh, surreal feeling working with him, from what I've heard,
Yeah.
from what I've heard from other people, and it just begins to make more sense that this the idea of being gifted as opposed to being trained, and it
Taught.
just
Yeah.
it falls in place,
Yeah.
right? Because I mean, thinking about music in a way and also relating that music to a visual is quite a task,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah. Exactly.
Is quite a task.
Yeah, and interesting to hear again. You on top of that, I didn't know about that he composes it in Tamil in his head at least.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
then
he does.
you
He
have
does.
this added
Sometimes
layer of
writes
the
the song
language
also in Tamil.
transition as well.
Yeah. That's because he wants to make sure that he has understood the song correctly
Gotcha.
and what is
Yeah.
going out as
Yeah.
the delivery is.
Cool.
You know.
So I guess
Yeah,
it's I guess he's a natural.
yeah, quite a natural. It's as we started this conversation, we went into the whole Sufi and saintly
Yeah.
idea. It's leading towards that, I think. The saintly being
Yeah.
A.R. Rahman.
Yeah. True. Transcending.
Transcending. Yeah.
So the next track we've got is Radha Kaise Na Jale. It's sung by Asha Bhosle, Udit Narayan, and Vaishali Samant, if I'm pronouncing her name correctly. And there is a chorus as well. Even this track, I think it starts off with similar to Ghanan Ghanan. You got those hand cymbals sort of playing together, and there's like this prayer type feeling to it, spiritual feeling, or you could say folk music as well, I suppose.
Little
But
tempo.
also there's the idea of the naughty element of romance.
Oh yeah. So I'm saying the naughty elements of romance as well as the naughty elements of Lord Krishna, like since that's how the song is, so the lyrics are.
He's supposed to be naughty.
And he's supposed to have a lot of girls, and Radha is the main girl, and she's jealous of other girls, and that's all. That's his personality, and that comes out in the song in such a. I mean, it's a. As I said, like there were some visuals you can't miss. Like you can see two characters, and you can see them sort of, playfully sort of romancing, but like ignoring romancing,
teasing each other.
Teasing each other, exactly.
and it comes out so well, I think, in just the music and the singing style as well between like Udit and Asha. Like it's you got that playfulness in their voice when they're like talking about each side of the story.
Yeah,
Right.
correct. Yeah.
It's there's a lot of like rhythmic changes as well, like in this track. Like I would say almost every 30 seconds, he switches it up a little bit. And
Yeah.
the percussive instruments are not just used as like just for the rhythm. There's almost like, I think towards the end at like the 4-minute 30-second mark, it's like a duet between the singers and the percussive instruments, because you have a line and then you have like a line by the instrument itself. And I think the rhythmic changes adds to that like playfulness of the track, because it's not like one rhythm that's just, and you base your whole track on it. Section by section, it sort of changes and plays with your expectations.
Percussion speak also, yeah. Yeah, the percussion starts to talk,
Yeah.
and the rhythm starts to talk, and even though it's not got words, but it's poetry.
Yeah.
Music being the universal language.
Like it just sort of starts overlaying. Like it starts with that one clap bell thing, and then it starts overlaying more tracks, and then then there's that drum beat, right? Like that sort of sets like a festivity mood to the whole song. Like I don't know what's it called. It's not a drum. It's
I'm
like
not sure as well. Yeah.
It's that big
the dhol.
The dhol. Yeah. So that adding the beats to it.
There's like these noobs.
No.
The dhol.
The dhol.
Are both of you in Bristol?
Spiritually, I think Razi's still here. But yeah, I think you're right there, and even if you take that intro with the I'm just keep calling it hand cymbals, because I don't know what it's called in Hindi, but even that is sort of played in a playful manner in the beginning. It's right. It's almost got like a lick to it. So again, it's you're used to like drum rolls, but you're not used to like hand cymbal rolls, let's say. So it's like translating that to a different percussive instrument, and it just gives it this other like playful nature, right?
Yeah, it does. So it's for instance, we're listening to this song and there's a lyrics obviously, and then there's the music, and then there is a rhythm to both the lyrics and the music. It starts off with this sort of you know that there's something that is playful that is going to come. And then it begins to get playful. It becomes romantic. It becomes naughty. It gets beautifully designed in visual. Because you know that this is perhaps, I think this was one of those songs which had the best choreography and in the film. So the whole song in itself is a story, because and yes, it's placed correctly in the movie, but even if you look at it separately as a music video, this is a music video also. Take it out of the film, and this in itself is it's a whole story.
And I think it works well because it for the movie, because at the core of it, it's a conversation between two characters.
It is,
but it's done in this manner, so it's not like a music in a movie that sort of halts the story and you just have some music and dancing. It sort of really adds to that dynamic.
For the film, it's going to add to the build up of the character of the
character arcs,
and both the arcs, and but if you take it out of the film, it may not affect the film. I don't know. I'm not being able to put it correctly, but uh, uh, if you take it out of the film, the song is independent,
Hmm.
and you put it in the film, it just affects their arc a lot. So
Yeah.
you know that these guys are there and they are
Yeah.
sort of interested in each other and
Yeah.
uh, love each other, but also tease each other, and there's a playfulness within themselves.
I would bring
And
that back
obviously,
to Krishna, Lord Krishna, because of there's the flute playing also. So that's symbolic
yeah,
Hmm.
to, and that
that's fantastic.
yeah, like that adds to
Yeah.
the, to the name of the song as well as what the song's
Yeah.
about, and and adds this one element of, I guess, so nod to Lord Krishna.
Yeah.
But
It
yeah,
is. It's. Well, it's because the conversation, I guess, in a playful way, you could say, is being hidden behind this mask that they're talking about Krishna and Radha, right? When
yeah,
they're talking about themselves, and so
themselves
there's like
exactly.
it adds that element of not like having a straightforward conversation, but
Yeah,
sort of talking and playing around, right?
yeah.
Playing with words.
Yeah, I mean, it's also mythologically one of the finest,
Yeah,
cutest stories that
mythology.
we've
That
heard.
was the term I was looking for in the beginning when I was like, what these characters, mythic characters, yeah, mythological characters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, but so that makes it all the more important to sort of for a diaspora
Hmm.
of Indian audiences where you want to watch all these things and bring a connect to the people.
Yeah.
So the mass is connected with this.
Hmm.
I mean, we know it for donkey's years now. You know, this story has always been there and
Yeah.
told to everyone. I think
Yeah.
from school to wherever. I mean, yeah, at home,
Hmm.
everyone just knows about this. So you relate to it instantly.
Yeah.
Radha Kaise na Jale.
Hmm.
Finished. This is it. That explains the
It's
song.
like
You know,
she's
what
got a
is the one
point
line
though.
of the
Yeah.
song?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The point of the song is this.
Yeah.
So the story instantly. Now you don't need to tell anything else,
Yeah.
you know, because everybody knows that okay, there was a Krishna, there was a Radha, and this used to happen.
Mhm.
He used to try and whatever. There was a tease element. There was
Play.
again
Yeah.
going back to playfulness element.
Also
So
puts the characters in the movie as
Hmm.
the characters in the mythology.
that I don't want to comment on actually.
Why not? Somebody playing Radha will be Radha, and
Yeah, so yeah, maybe
It's
also again,
symbolism, I would say, right?
I
There's
mean
symbolism
symbolically,
going
yeah,
on
of course, it's
where,
but those were the characters. So
yeah,
basically, like sort of showing the legend mythology in a new
being
format,
played out in a
being played out.
modern but still a period piece
Yeah.
sort of way, right?
in a modern but period piece which has a period element
Hmm.
of this. So
Mhm.
you go pick up a Radha Krishna, put them here in a period story which is being created now.
Yeah. Wow. Talk about getting meta. Hmm. Yeah, good stuff.
Yeah.
So then we sort of get to Ore Chori, which is
Oh, nice.
sung by
My
Udit.
favorite,
Yeah.
my favorite song from the film.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
So
this and there's another prayer. We'll come to that.
okay. So Udit Narayan, Alka Yagnik, and Vasundhara Das. Is Vasundhara the one singing the English parts in this track? Sorry, I
I
my
don't know.
naivety, but
I'm just gonna check that.
okay.
Start this with Prankit. What would you name? Like we will at the end, we will name all the tracks in English. But what would you name this track in English as?
Wow, that is a good question. How do you make it work in English? Like,
Hey girl.
hey there, girl. Hey there, Delilah. Yeah. But yeah, you were saying, Heather.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a different in the like we were discussing the background score of the film of how the British has a different feel to it
Mhm.
and the Indian side of it has a different feel to it. this song is all about that. From where my heart it speaks starts,
Mhm.
you get completely into that zone of this one English woman
Yeah.
who has fallen in love with this village boy. And when you come out of it, here's two people singing about how much they're attached to each other.
It's crazy that you if this was a song, if this was a song being composed for like a standalone album which is not related to a movie, you might
Yeah.
never even create something like this because it wouldn't really make sense out of because the juxtaposition of these two things,
Yeah.
they're so separate.
Triangle.
It's not
Yeah,
that it's the village girl thinking in English. No, it's a completely different character of that love triangle.
You
And
gotta
that
like
also
you
happens.
gotta have the movie for the song to make more sense. It's a good
yeah,
song.
yeah, because
but
the
it
previous
would-
one,
yeah.
like Radha
Yeah,
Kaise Na Jale, that was something that you could imagine just as a standalone song.
Yes, that would work as a song.
But Ore Chori is like it, and he makes it work so like so well,
Yeah.
combining those elements and it not being I guess cheesy might be a word, or it not being off-putting or awkward in a sense of how the elements come together.
Oh, and the visual has also been designed very well. It's been shot very well,
I can't remember.
and the choreography is fantastic.
But
But it is
like,
interesting because I think the previous track, because I'm only listening, right? I haven't gone back and watched the YouTube or the music videos, but the previous track, it ends on such a heavy classical sort of note.
Mhm.
And then this
Yeah.
one, as when it starts, you immediately
light.
feel a slightly tonal shift because it's a bit more sort of laid back. And one thing
it's got a folk
I-
feeling in the beginning,
yeah.
and it then comes to the Western style and like switches between the two.
Yeah, and Udit's voice, like, because he's got such like a, I don't know, sweet or innocent sounding voice, that this type of like folk type singing and the words he uses, right, like hamra and all of that, like
Yeah.
it comes across so genuine, right? Like it's
Innocent.
you really feel that innocence in that voice, that
yeah.
for lack of a better word, that like simpleness of just sort of being true and honest and genuine.
Yeah, to the earth.
Yeah.
Yes, your earth. Yeah, your and then going to the British the side of it,
Yeah.
where she's singing, and then suddenly, and there's a moment where Amir also comes and starts to dance with her.
Mhm.
In the
Yeah.
song. Am I
Yeah.
right? In this, it happens in the song, right? Yeah. So that also, and then that she's imagining,
In
because
the
he's
in the
not in love
ballroom
with her.
dance
That's the
scene.
time.
Right.
Yeah.
The ballroom dance scene.
Yeah.
I need to go back and watch this.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
yeah, so this, I mean, it's a very well laid out, but of course you need the context of the movie to understand it better, but it's a very well laid out love triangle between completely two different styles of music, which is Western and Eastern both. Right.
I think it's almost like probably not, but I can imagine someone, Rahman or someone being like almost taking it up as like a challenge, or like how do you
Maybe.
take like 1800s sort of, because even the instruments he selects in all the songs, they have that like like they do feel set in that era almost. There's obviously there is some synthesizers and there's some other stuff, but the raw instruments or the bass instruments, and then how do you take something like that and insert like colonial British sounding music in it and make it work? But he obviously
Yeah.
did. But it's almost like it's like a challenge that he wanted to sort of take on.
This is one song where in the vocal part of it, he's used like an atmospheric voice, like an atmospheric effect to the voice.
Like some sort of
because-
processing.
Yeah, because before this,
Oh,
like
it's-
they were quite
Yeah.
sharp, but in this, like it has those chunks of that atmospheric when probably to give that dreamy feeling, especially in the western part of the song.
Like an echo
Right.
to it, right?
Yeah, there's an echo of
It's added
longing,
reverb. There's
Reverb, yeah.
yeah.
of longing.
It's almost
of
like when
love
I
and
hear
stuff.
it, because I I can't remember the video, but when I hear the English part, I always imagine her singing it in like a ballroom or like a hall or like some sort of large area
Yeah.
where you got a lot of
Yeah.
reflections.
Open space.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it sort of adds to that. Yeah.
Because in the movie she's singing it in their fortress or whatever, like that huge
Yeah.
mansion
Yeah.
kind of thing. But yeah, so this is one like that echoing of the voice adds a completely different perspective to because it stood out because there is no other song which has everyone has that like clear cut sharp normal vocals, while in this there's that atmospheric feeling to it, so probably adds to the
Yeah.
dream
Almost like a
sequence.
chapel or something. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because there is like a choir as well that's singing in the
Yeah.
background in the English parts, which, yeah, adds to that. Cool.
That I think is for the music, but the both the parts are can be separate,
Mhm.
and they tell you the story so well, because the song is to basically what is it doing? It's telling you that two people are in love, and there's a third one who's in love with the other person who thinks probably that
He's,
yes, there's a possibility of this man coming to
yeah,
me,
reciprocating that feeling.
reciprocating the feeling.
Yeah.
But that's obviously not happening. So to the audience is very clear.
Yeah.
Well, there's always
But-
someone who gets hurt at the end of these things. Love
Yeah.
triangles.
At the end of the
Yeah.
film, the British did.
Mhm.
He's just quiet about that. But like the song ends with like a sudden involvement of a harp and like a harp, and then there's
Yeah.
violin, and then it's like operatic voices, and
Mhm.
then switches back to that Hindi bit and fades out. But
Yeah, again, a great
like,
fusion of the different stuff coming
Yeah.
together and leaving you there without it being jarring or anything, right?
Yeah.
Cool.
Interestingly explaining everything. Yeah.
Again, the lyrics, I mean, very well written.
So now we get to Chale Chalo, which is performed by the man himself, A.R. Rahman and Srinivas, and there's a chorus with them as well. Which I think this is sort of almost, I would call it like the main meat of the
This is
album.
the team building. Yeah.
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 We get to the main anthem, or like you could
Yeah.
call it the war cry, right?
And how it's beautiful to have women also sing in the same song, and because they're also supportive towards this. But how do you bring a cricket team together and make it seem real? Who's going to fight against the British by playing cricket?
Yeah.
And it's and equalizing the whole village, because you don't want to keep the women separate out of it.
Mhm.
So they're there, but obviously there's a huge narrative of patriarchy that
Mhm.
is prevalent, and you can't help it sometimes. So what you end up doing with that is get the women to sing. It just I'm just
You
throwing
need
out
to
ideas.
involve, like however you could involve
In
all the voices, because I think there is a element of like this being greater, given the context of the movie, greater than just a cricket match, where it's sort of like it is a war in a
is a
sense
war.
for freedom.
Yeah.
In a sense, it's sort of
Yeah.
symbolizing that, and you definitely need to have, I'd
It
say,
is a
the whole
war with a
village involved.
gentleman's game. But yeah, I mean, the song has that along with the elements of that you discuss of the females being part of it as much, and there's that. I mean, it starts with that humming and stomping, and like there's this
Yeah.
march that you feel, and that
How's
march.
the Josh?
Sorry,
How's the Josh?
how's the joke?
It's like that.
Yeah.
And you just like just sort of walking towards something, and that's also what the song is like. The lyrically, it's about just moving on and keep on going, and this like there's a cello in the part. Like I think there's a part. They've also included cello
Mhm.
in. Then the overlaying of so many instruments together, and by the end, like it becomes this really fast beat. After I think
Powerful.
Yeah.
Very, very powerful.
Rahman comes in at 540. Like he has this overlay of this one bit, and after that, it's just it keeps increasing the tempo.
And the tempo, yeah, the tempo really picks up. I mean, the rhythm to me, it always in this track, it always sounded like it's almost like a train going on a train
Yeah.
track, and
Yeah.
it's this unstoppable momentum you feel that like nothing
Yeah.
can stop this
True.
train. And then he obviously still plays around. There's a lot of dynamic changes in that rhythm,
Mhm.
which
Correct.
sort of keep you on point. It never gets repetitive. And then yeah, as it picks up that tempo at the end, you know, like these guys are going all in. Like you can't stop this. You know, the train has left the station.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then you're constantly throughout the song, they're constantly telling themselves, and everybody else is telling everybody else that that we have to do this, and it's about that this is, this is what we need to achieve, and we
Yeah.
will do it.
Mhm.
So the biggest thing to be able to achieve that is believe in yourself. That's the motive,
Mhm.
right? Eventually, that's what the message that goes out from this song is this.
Yeah. You
That
set your mind
believe in
to it,
yourself,
and
and you can achieve whatever. But that's again going back to how much the music is complementing this idea
Mhm.
is unbelievable. It's quite
it's
fascinating.
also like structurally. I I was trying to figure out just by listening to it, like what part of the song would you say is the chorus? Like there's the like the bar huh, like that part,
Yeah.
or then there's like koi humse jeet na pave, or like toot gayi jo. So it's like
I think
It's
that's
all-
the
it's
bridge.
all an
all-
anthem. It's like a chorus after chorus.
I think the
Chorus after chorus.
Toot Gai Ungli is like sort of the bridge of the song, right? Because like we're kind of in the song, and that's when this another factor adds into the lyrics,
Mhm.
uh, which is so real that you can
Yeah.
see it. Like, I mean, if you bring all your fingers together, it's a fist. So that's how you punch through, and
But I
you're
don't
used
know
to
how
it.
much. I don't know how much you want to put this in a structure.
No, you don't. But I
You know?
think it's interesting to think because the way because this is sort of like your war cry or anthem, it kind of makes sense that the whole song is like a chorus. Like every single part of it is sort of turned to 100 rather than because usually what you have is you'll have a verse which is generally more mellow, and then when you get to the chorus, you tend to sort of that's the catchy bit that everyone sings along, and it's like the anthem. But in this
Yeah.
case, the whole song is the anthem, and it sort of
Yeah.
comes out as that. Like it's
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
one
Every
after the
word.
other hitting you in the face.
Yeah.
You can't go to sleep to this song.
You can't. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's constantly to awaken the idea of let's do it.
Also aggressive.
Don't let your dreams be
Very
dreams.
aggressive.
Very aggressive.
Yeah.
Very aggressive. Aggressively telling you about how to do it correctly.
And also that basically it's a do or die situation. Like, that
Yeah, that too.
your enemy is going to be dust, and you are the one
Yeah.
who's going to win then. Like, that's
Yeah.
putting it like that.
Eh,
So yeah,
war.
I've got like the whole song is about not giving up, capturing the feeling of determination, anticipation, and restlessness. Like you've got to walk through it. That's in you, but there's also that determination that you have to walk through it. There's also that anticipation of I'm going to walk through it and win by dusting the.
Yeah. There's like thinking, and then there's like taking action and doing it, which
Yeah.
is I think what this song is capturing, right?
Yeah.
Cool. So then we sort of get to I would say a mellower song, which is Waltz for a Romance in A major, sort of an instrumental piece, shorter instrumental piece.
Why is it why is it in A major?
Just
Prankit, why is it an A major?
we'll have to ask Rahman himself. Yeah,
No,
yeah, because it is named Waltz for a Romance in A major.
so is it like the maximum notes used are that, or I
No,
don't
no,
know.
no, 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 no.
It's just the scale of
It's just the scale.
yeah, A major. I mean,
So is
I'm
that
not too
what
familiar
the
with
scale that
It's
the
a
Waltz.
whole
female
song?
scale.
Yeah,
It's a female scale.
Okay.
A major is a female scale.
you know what? I
So,
think it plays back to so a lot of like more classical English songs.
Mhm.
They tend to have that sort of like canon in C or something. Like they'll have the scale in brackets after the title of the track,
Mhm.
and because this track goes back to that colonial, almost British classical music, I feel like it's titled in that vein, right? Waltz for a Romance in brackets in A major. Because if you
Right.
go back
Yeah.
to a lot of English classical tracks, they do have that in brackets, the scale. I could be wrong, but I think that might be partly why it's sort of named like this. But you really see the dynamic range again of Rahman. Like, again,
Yeah.
going from like folk tracks to something which is much more classical. It's still set in that time period. It's not modern English music,
yeah, yeah.
but it does capture that essence of what you'd
Oh, yeah, yeah.
imagine. Right.
Like probably like a well lit hall with white curtains and somebody like
It's very
Yeah.
well thought. Yeah,
Yeah.
I
it's
mean,
very well thought. The notes and how
yeah.
it's used, and of course, waltz throws you back immediately.
Yeah.
But how you end up using waltz
You
in
get
your
into a
song,
ballroom in your
and
head.
make sure it's part of the movie.
right.
Mhm.
You know.
It's and I think there's definitely a difference between taking the melody of something like oratory and just playing it with Western instruments, or like
Yeah.
having
Yeah.
that through line but completely transforming it to like an English classical theme,
Mhm.
which is what I think again sets some of the English aspects of this album a bit apart. It's there's a lot of effort gone into it rather than just sort of as an afterthought, like, oh yeah, let's just put it some violin and stuff in and it'll sound fine.
No, there's a lot of thought. Like that's definitely
Yeah.
there. It's very soft. I don't know. I mean, I've got so it's got that European feel to it,
Soothing. It's very soothing. Yeah.
and like it's got those intricate elements and sort of a palace vibe to the whole song. Right.
Yeah. And again, coming from like the album structure, like you come off Chale Chalo, which was like completely the opposite in terms of musical tone and like the whole song being like a chorus. And here there is no like, it's just an instrumental piece, laid
Right.
back, completely different musical style. So you can
Yeah,
really
the
see that
aggressive Indians
transition.
versus the soft English.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like if you hadn't seen the movie and you just heard the two tracks, you wouldn't imagine they were in the same album or the same.
Not
you
at
know,
all. Yeah,
It's
correct.
so
Very
different.
right.
Right.
I mean, this track, Waltz for Romance, doesn't at all. Like, if you just listen to this track, it might be from like a Western artist.
Can be from
making it.
anywhere. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
So then we get to, I'd say, one of my favorite tracks of the album, O Paalan Hare,
Oh wow.
sung by Lata Mangeshkar, Sadhana Sargam, Udit Narayan, and then there is a chorus as well. So yeah.
So prayer.
Mm-hmm.
One of the prettiest prayers I think I've heard in the longest time. It's so beautiful, and of course Lataji's voice and all of that is just out there. But it's just very pretty, and it makes you emotional. It's got all kinds of different ideas of how much we want what we want in the film. I'm talking
Mhm.
from the perspective of the film,
Mhm.
you know, and the fear. There is the wish, desire to constantly just please just come to our help,
Yeah.
shelter us.
The whole
You know?
the whole song is also like musically, it's structured to sort of make the audience feel for the villagers in the scene,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like, because they're just singing out,
It
but
started losing
you're listening
at
to
this
that.
point. It started losing in
Yeah.
the cricket match, and
I think before the
this
last or
where-
second last match, this is the
yeah,
night.
correct,
Yeah.
correct.
It is again having Lata Mangeshkar sing this was like a genius choice because it's and you know, it's like I feel like the mark of like a good composer where it's like it's one of the tracks where you can sort of hear the the percussions and the instruments sort of take a back seat, and he lets
Yeah.
Lata kind of do her thing. Like
Yeah.
she's the focus of the song. You don't
Yeah,
detract
yeah.
from it at any
True.
point musically, and it makes it sound so sincere. It's not like all jazzed up and fancy. It's a prayer.
Yeah.
It's true and honest.
And it comes from the mother, who's also happens to be in the film. She's been placed as like the mother of all,
Right.
you know. And Amir's mother, her character is such that it's like ma to all, you
Mhm.
know.
Mhm.
So and she's praying first, and then Udit Narayan joins in,
Mhm.
which is Amir's voice.
Mhm.
Then it seems like, okay, the mother started to pray, and now the son follows, and the chorus then takes over.
The
Yeah.
whole thing
You know.
being like composed with, I think, like I would say like different sizes of temple bells, right? Like
Yeah,
from the
yeah.
smallest that the thing that you play with, or to like the actual bell, like everything's included in the song. So that, I mean, giving the whole prayer uh what mystical
The whole song a
perspective.
prayer vibe. Yeah,
It
yeah.
sounds very like natural in that way, right? Not
Yeah.
something super produced in like a studio, but there's like
Yeah.
it's like a natural prayer.
Keep it as raw.
Yeah,
as
raw.
correct.
And
Yeah.
I think in again musically, a lot of the musical themes from the previous track they are present in this track, like in the
Yeah.
right in the melodies and
And
the
the melody. Yeah.
Mhm.
but it's got this thing where like the scale sort of they always play this one minor note like at 4 minute 40 seconds it's quite evident when you have the flute kicking in where it sort
Yeah.
of goes one note down and again it's just a soft touch but it hits so hard like you feel it inside you know when
Yeah.
that note kicks in because I
would
feel
say
like
this is
even if
like
you
the
don't
counterpart
yeah
to Waltz for Romance, like the one before this, like this is the counterpart to it
the Indian
because of
counterpart
the sort of purity of the song.
Mhm.
Like both have that purity in the sense of that's kind of dreamy. Waltz for Romance is dreamy, while this is prairie, right?
Yeah, it's definitely I feel you know Lata Mangeshkar being Lata Mangeshkar
Oh yeah,
it's one of those tracks
that's
that
very well
I can't
said, yeah.
imagine it has it's her voice
It's
that
like
is the track.
she's the main trunk of the
She's the
tree,
main
and
instrument
Anchor.
in the track.
That's the anchor to the song.
Yeah.
yeah,
Correct.
Amazing.
And the whole idea, of course, as you mentioned, the how he's follied in the temple bells,
Mhm.
just to give it the whole village temple feel.
Mhm.
And then, of course, the rhythm, how it flows, is a different
Mhm.
concept. But uh, the vocals are obviously more dominating because
The highlight.
yeah, it's the highlight of the song, and it's actually more like the mom feeling it.
Mhm.
It's uh, not so much to forget winning the match. It's more about livelihoods, you know.
Mhm.
Right now, that's at stake.
Yeah,
So how do we present that?
it gets real.
It gets real.
Right.
Yeah.
Cool. And yeah, then we get to the final track titled Lagaan, Once Upon a Time in India. The artists credited on this are Anuradha Sriram and strings arranged by R. Prasanna, if I'm pronouncing that correctly.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is I guess the sort of the final track, sort of instrumental, if you want to call it that, because there is a bit of
Yeah.
humming and
Yeah.
some chorus in there.
Singing, yeah.
But yeah, again, a twist on some of the folk themes from the previous tracks. sort of coming together in a sort of a combination of, like, I guess the trumpets or the horns being played.
They've used it a lot in the match,
Mhm.
and they've also used it for bowling sequences, and right towards the end, of course, it starts to just sort of pump in, and this becomes the again another anthem, so to speak.
Yeah, it's
Because
almost there's like a dramatic feel to parts of it, like almost like an opera. Especially
yeah.
if you go around like the 1 minute 40-second mark or the 2 minute 12-second mark that I put down here. And it feels like you're watching an opera. Things are happening. That, because again, I can't remember the movie scenes exactly, but I could imagine there's stuff going on screen, and you've got this operatic music to like, accompany the action.
You know,
So it's almost like watching a live
there
theater
aren't-
production with the opera singing there, being there.
there aren't like words in it, as you mentioned. Like opera is
Yeah.
just. I mean, it's just sort of
So it just goes on, "Re bhaiya chuti lagan." That's all it goes on.
but it starting off with the trumpets. It sets the time frame of the British era, and then moving on to the end of the song with all the sort of transitions in between with the opera and with then the Indian beats also adding into it, and Re Bhaiya Chuti Lagan being the end of the song, being like, that's basically a full timeline of the movie.
Yeah,
I mean,
I could imagine like
summarizes
Yeah.
summarizes the film.
yeah,
yeah.
in
Yeah.
4 minutes.
I mean, you could just direct like a short movie or something, for that 4 minute, 10 seconds, whatever the length of the track is,
Just fast forward
just from the
whole movie
beginning
in
to
4
end
minutes.
with.
No, but the climax has been cut very, very delicately on this track. Because if I remember correctly, it was the last ball and he had to hit a 6, and that 6 has to go out of the boundary for him to take a catch out the boundary.
Yeah,
which is quite well designed, and for that time, of course. And who would have thought that this was going to happen, right? Because this British
it hadn't happened before, as well as like that idea was so new of them winning the way they did, like by chance, but they screwed up. I mean, the British screwed up by chance. So that's
and our Russell
yeah.
Russell screwed up.
Yeah.
That's the least expected.
Yeah. But yeah, I think it is a good final track because, as you said, Razi, summarizes your whole journey with elements of the different themes coming together. But probably the most, I would say, out of the 8 tracks, this is basically, I would say, more of like the score, almost, right? But yeah, an amazing combination of instruments and themes.
Yeah. I mean, the only lyric being that what I would translate it to.
Re bhaiya chuti lagan.
Oh jeez. Finally.
Yeah. Sweet release.
Yeah. Finally gone out of our lives.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think, Haider, you were saying something a little earlier, right? About
I was saying that of course Rahman and his genius is definitely a plus point for the film, but it's also to do with Amir and Ashutosh Gavarkar, who wrote a fantastic script. There's a documentary there on the film, which is called Madness in the Desert, and how they went and set up the entire village in Bhuj. And they shot the film there. The actors stayed there. Luckily, apart from Amir at that time, I don't remember correctly if there was another star in the film, because all the other actors were great actors and they were all theater people, and they came together, and then how they learned and how they rehearsed the choreography in the village itself, all these things is just, it actually became that Madness in the Desert.
Yeah,
Because this film is
there's a lot of passion.
it's more than just a film, because you're ending up going to see a cricket match for 3 hours, possibly. That's also
Mm.
an agenda, or a perspective people have thrown. But eventually, you're seeing a film which is something like this has never been seen before,
Mm-hmm.
and you're going to experience uh, British versus India, which has obviously been done to death.
Yeah.
But
The
but
story.
This
this
way,
story, yeah, this way, and this how are you going to achieve this, must have been a task and a half at that time.
and adding
Especially
drama to
because
it.
of the lack of technology. Right now we say, okay, no, there's all possible CGI work and all
Yeah.
possible
Mhm.
VFX extensions and all of those that have come into the market now. At that time, of course not. This wasn't there. So
Mhm.
I remember in the documentary them talking about how the juniors had come in, and on one of the days when I think some 10,000 people they'd called for, because in the
For the
massive wide shots that you see,
I remember
the
reading that
villagers,
like
yeah,
did Amir Khan sing Aati Kya Khandala or something, and they recorded the
no,
audience reactions.
he had to actually make sure he was on set to be able to shoot them,
Hmm.
and the audience had to perform,
Yeah.
and they were all villagers, and
Yeah.
suddenly 10,000 people there on this land, up away till that some cliff on
Yeah.
top they had to spread.
Yeah. It's not
you
like
know
CGI duplicating the crowd. It's like
you're not
real
doing that,
people.
you're not, you're
Um,
calling real people.
yeah. Well, so I remember reading
And you better
somewhere.
make
Yeah.
sure that you finish all your work,
Yeah.
whatever you have to do with those many people, because you don't want to call those many people again. you know
I think you and your perspective, I guess, being in the industry on like how complicated and difficult this type of task could
yeah,
be
I
would
mean,
be.
it does, but
Yeah.
now, like I'm saying, now it's become slightly easier because of
Yeah.
and I mean, not easier, but because it requires a different style of shooting if you want
Yeah.
to sort of
Hmm.
do crowd multiplication and stuff. But at that era, at that time, and they managed it, and how they managed it, and of course then Rahman's music comes into play and makes it a whole grand experience
Yeah.
for the audience and everyone. And
Cinematic
of course, from the
masterpiece.
recordings that you see on YouTube of how this was done, how the songs are recorded, of what he was thinking,
Yeah.
how much energy was there in the room, you can feel it while looking at the video only.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's-
Such a unique
So,
combination of all these amazing artists, actors,
yeah,
musicians, like coming together to create this
because we've all
piece
heard
of art.
about being Amir Khan being this perfectionist,
Yeah.
and then we've heard about Ashutosh Gavarekar being whatever his thought is
Yeah.
great about history, Indian
Mhm.
history,
Mhm.
and but at the same time, you're looking at a genius who's a music maestro. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah, and I think this was one of Amir Khan's like first productions, or like for his production company,
yes,
right?
yes, yes,
Ah,
yes.
good for him.
Amir Khan
It
production.
went over budget. It went over budget. They felt really they were doomed at one point because they didn't know how to handle it.
Oh wow.
But
Yeah.
they managed, and they made a great film, which was our first entry to the Oscars.
Yeah.
I remember. I think it was the third.
Was this the first entry to the Oscars?
No. I think it was the third.
Third?
Okay.
I think there've been two movies before, because I remember coming across it. I could be wrong, because it could be maybe in a specific category. But
Yeah.
I think it was the third.
As best film, I think this
if I'm-
was the first. Indian.
Maybe, yeah, in that category.
Yeah.
But yeah, an amazing journey musically and visually, and
Yeah.
really captures the feelings, what the movie was portraying. It's not just about good or bad. It's about, there's different perspectives, and it's a timeless story of,
It's a timeless story.
Yeah.
and
It
I
stays-
mean
Lagaan stays
thematically, yeah.
evergreen.
And I mean, if you think about it, I was just, because while you were talking about this, and because again it's been a while, but I was just thinking, the whole recruitment of the cricket team, the way you've got a village, they got to they got to pay up, and all of that, and it almost like goes back, like like Seven Samurai, where again
Yeah,
you have like
yeah.
the village, they have they have these intruders coming in, they have to go recruit this team of ragtag,
Yeah.
they had no idea what they're doing, but they form a team, and then they have to sort of, so it's a timeless story, and
Timeless story.
you put it in this period, and you take the British and the Indians, and then you on top of that overlay a love triangle. So
Yeah.
it's just
Yeah.
it's like its own its
Yeah.
own journey. And
Do you
musically
guys
that's
know
reflected.
that Captain Russell did not know how to play cricket?
So what did he
Like
get like training for it, or
He got trained. We came here
Yeah.
to India and he started training
wow?
in the summers of Bhuj.
Uh,
Yeah. So it must have been a journey for them also, for the
Yeah.
people who were associated with the film.
But just for fun,
Actually, every film is quite a journey, but
not that the
Yeah.
tracks are not named rightly, but I just like, I mean, name them in English. Yeah,
oh wow.
all right.
just
Let's go one by one. Ghanan Ghanan. Oh God. I
Now,
can't
how do
name
you
it.
even? Let's call it rain or something.
rainy,
Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah, no, there's a word for that.
Ghanan Ghanan is thunder.
Thunder. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
called thunder.
The thunder.
Thunder, thunder. Thunder, exclamation, and thunder, exclamation.
Thunder. This reminds you of the AC/DC song.
Exactly.
Yeah. And
Mitwa is, I
then you
think,
got Mitwa,
friend, companion,
ally,
Buddy.
buddy. What's up, buddy? Radha kaise na jale.
How would Radha not burn?
No,
Not be jealous.
cannot be.
How would Radha not burn? It's a literal translation.
Quite
How can
literal.
Radha not be jealous?
Radha kaise na jale.
Mm-hmm. And then Ore Chori, we sort of discussed. Hey
Yeah,
there,
yeah.
Delilah.
Chale Chalo is, I guess, let's go. Vamos.
Just do it.
Let's do this.
Let's do. Let's.
Oh, no.
No, I think it's not let's do this.
Then let's go.
Let's go.
Let's keep going.
This sounds like you're going to the mall or something. Let's go.
Let's keep going. Okay, let's keep going.
Let's keep going.
Let's keep going, guys. Then there's also romance, and there's
That's
oh,
English.
Paalanhaare.
Oh Lord.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Oh dear God.
Oh dear God. Our Father who art in heaven. Yeah. And then Lagaan, Once Upon a Time in India is English.
Yeah.
I just looked up
As in-
Captain Russell because I was like, wait, I remember, I think, because he's played by the actor Paul Blackthorne.
Mhm.
And Razi, you'll remember him from Arrow.
Yeah. I
Right, 'cause I was like-
I remember, like, back
Yeah.
when we were watching Arrow is when I think we
Made
shared
the connection.
some meme or something.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, excellent. I think
That
this
was
sort of
not
wraps it up, this amazing journey, cinematic and musical, and the legend that is A.R. Rahman. Although this
Yeah.
was 21 years ago now,
Yeah.
it's crazy to think how far he has come since then. But even,
but the film
yeah.
released 21 years ago.
oh, yeah,
uh,
yeah. But the
work
production
started
would
on
have
it,
been,
I think 5 years before that.
oh, really?
Yeah. Must have been because
Wow.
it took them 2 years to shoot and edit.
Mhm.
And then it must have been one more year, a year and a half, 3.5, 4 years definitely.
Because like how long usually, like when it comes to, I guess, the Bollywood film industry, how long
Yeah.
does from principal photography, let's say, rather than, or like how long?
Depends. We've come into an age of digital now,
Yeah.
so it's much faster. But these guys,
Because I always thought
film.
in India it was like a year or 2 years, but wow, 5
No,
years.
an average film, a 2.5 hour film usually takes about, depending on the stunts and action and everything in the film, it usually takes about 50 days minimum
Mhm.
to shoot.
Yeah, to
But
get the photography.
Lagaan was shot for I think over 200 days.
Wow.
Yeah.
Is there a director's cut of like 5 hours long?
No,
The Govarikar cut.
I think this is the director's cut that we
The
see.
one we got, yeah.
Yeah.
In India, I think I imagine at least back then you would get the director's cut in the sense they didn't really want to stop movies at like it has to be 2 hours or 1 hour, 1.5 hours, right?
I mean, I think this is
Well,
a 3 hour,
yeah.
15, something like that.
It's an
Yeah,
epic.
this is a long film.
An epic.
Yeah, it's an epic.
Well, thanks for tuning in, guys. I hope you found this conversation interesting.
It was fantastic.
Yeah, and thank you very much for your time, Heather. It was great to have you here. Hope to have you here again soon. It's great to get these
So much.
perspectives
Thank you.
on it. And yeah, we'll see you guys again soon.
Great chatting with you guys. Yeah, this song was also performed by Razi in school.
Is there a video of that, Razi? Can we slice it in?
No, I
You can find a video of that and put it up here also. Edit it in. Do you remember if the credits roll on this track? Because I know that this track was established made to establish the empire.
Yeah.
But I don't remember if the credits. I don't remember what song credits roll on. Or does it go back to Ghanan Ghanan only? I think it goes back to Ghanan Ghanan because it starts
I
to rain
remember
in the
this
end. No?
this with the scenes like the mansion fortress scenes with this when
Yeah, with the English scenes. Yeah.
when
Yeah, I do
the
wonder
Elizabeth
because I know in Ore Chori you have that English part and then
it's similar
like the
sounding to that,
melody
like,
carries through in this. So I wonder if this was like just after that song or
Of course, this is Elizabeth's theme.
Yeah.
And it is also the British theme. But I don't know how if because there's a part of it in this track which is to do with our Ori Chori bit.
yeah, that's what I was.
Melody.
like that
So
that
this is
melody
Elizabeth-
is instrumental here, which the one that
Yeah.
she sings in the
Mhm.
western
Yeah.
part of it, like that's what. But
I think this film also had Ashutosh Gawarkar's writing and Amir and Rahman and all these people coming together is just. It's not always going to be insane, but this film just dropped in at the right time for a lot of other
Remember to
actors
mention
also.
this in the summary of the video. Good point.
Yeah. Okay.
Good point, actually.